can AI really replace your support team, or does it just need a support team itself? We saw a little bit of a reverse course from Klarna this week. Klarna, of course, we talked about several weeks back, or maybe a few months at this point, how they sort of came out with a pretty big bet on AI, saying that they were going to replace 700 customer service agents with an AI assistant, claiming it could handle two-thirds of all of their support interactions. And they had some pretty impressive statistics that they mentioned: 2.3 million monthly chats, faster response time, higher user satisfaction. So it was sort of early poster child for sort of the promise of AI-led efficiency, but they have quietly started increasing their human support staff again, particularly across Europe. The company insists that this isn't an actual reversal, but it definitely is looking like the AI sort of promise is not bearing fruit the way they maybe expected, because it turns out there's still a big segment of people that really just want to talk to a human. And I mean, you think about this, I don't know how many times you call. When I call something and I hear a chat bot, I say agent, 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 right? I just want to talk to a person.
Hit
And I
0,
think
just
that
start hitting
here
0. Isn't that
zero.
the one that usually gets me to age 0?
Yeah, so and I think there's a lot of people who is still like that. Like, when I want support, I really just want to talk to a person. So I think it's some interesting questions that come up about whether maybe the winning model isn't replaced, but it's a hybrid, right? Can we take out the low-hanging fruit questions to support our customers faster? I think there's also interesting questions about, like, in what medium do people want to interact with an AI agent versus a human agent? Like, maybe if I'm talking on the phone, I want a human, but if I'm chatting with a really good chatbot, maybe I'm good there. And I think it's going to be interesting to see companies sort of test into that and see what resonates with their customers and what actually is the winning strategy here. I think it's an unanswered question.
100% agree with you on that. I just feel like it's such a great example of, A, be careful what you read in the headlines. Like, sometimes they're a little over exaggerated. So not everything, you're not as far behind sometimes others as you may think if you're not doing these things. But also, it just feels like when you go to we're going to replace a whole function with AI, and that's not the right deployment strategy. And the kind of testing your way in, what works, what doesn't. And I will say, as many times as I have the agent get me to a human experience, I have the opposite, which is like, what do like, what do you mean I have to call somebody to reset my pa why is this thing I want to do not easy? Please don't make me jump through 16 IVRs to check my balance or whatever it is, reset my PIN and my debit card. So, and some of that may not feel like AI, like resetting your PIN for your debit card doesn't have to have a chatbot. It can just be a really good app experience that's offloaded what used to be customer service. And then what's left is stuff where people really want to talk to a human. And so I just think you got to be really careful with how you think about where you're deploying, how you're measuring, how you're figuring out if the users respond to the way you expect. And it just feels like Klarna got aggressive, one of the headlines, and it maybe missed the boat on rolling out effectively. Not shockingly, but this was a little bit of a surprise to me how far back they seem to have pulled their story.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I think that your point is so well made that as a consumer, everything should be easy and fast for me. And if it's not, I don't wanna have to jump through a bunch of hoops to fix it. I don't wanna have to wait on hold. I don't wanna have to, talk to an AI agent and, like, negotiate a bunch of stuff before it gets sent to a human. I kinda want that white glove service for anything that is actually so hard that I couldn't. And so I think companies really need to be thinking about how to make every possible need on their interface as easy as possible for the person, so that it's a pretty high bar that if they had to pick up the phone, like, they need some specialized support, right? We don't Most people, I think, don't wanna have to pick up the phone and do that type of thing. So, super interesting.
Yeah, and it reminds me, our co-founder at Upstart, Anna Councilman, was at Google, was in charge of some Gmail support, and they really had a very tight partnership between support and product to go. Every time somebody calls support, a lot of times it's like it's a product. It's not like "Oh, we need to automate the chat experience or the support experience. We need to fix the product so that the user didn't have to call support, and that can get lost in the like, oh, do we want to automate this with AI? It's like, no, you want to like stop the stuff that's automatable with AI so it doesn't happen at all in some very real way. And that can get lost in the data around what AI is doing. But it may mean that what's left is like, you really want to talk to a person when you call in and have these questions.
Yeah. Well, that's why I always say, like, your best use of AI is taking all of that unstructured data from the phone calls and finding those product opportunities there,
For
right?
sure.
Like, send an AI in there, parse all the calls, parse all the email communications, and figure out, like, where are my opportunities? Where are people getting stuck? What is taking too long, right? Like, maybe something should be one click and instead it's five. How do we make that stuff simpler?
How do we make it easier? Yeah.